Ready? الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So today inshallah ta'ala in continue discussing the book Al-Mulaqis Al-Fiqhi by Shaykh Salih Fawzan Hafidullah ta'ala, that still discussing those matters that relates to the ahkam of nikah, kitab al-nikah, and the various topics that relates to this particular discussion. So today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we ought to discuss or start a discussion regarding al-ishra and nisa, regarding our huquq al-zawjain, the rights that are expected from both spouse, the husband and wife. That is Shaykh Hafidullah, that he will mention some of those duties and responsibility expected from each, and more so is expected from each. So I'll read the hadith and what is mentioned here, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Aywa.
Bismillahi wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi qala ma'allif hafidhahullah, chapter 11, page 407, title Husband-Wife Relationship. The husband-wife relationship refers to the relationship between the married partners, which should be based on kindness and intimacy. Each of the two spouses must live kindly and faithfully with the other. None of them should withhold the other's rights, have an aversion to fulfilling any of them, or give the other her rights but follow it with injury or reminders of favor and generosity. Allah exalted be He commands husbands to be kind to their wives. Allah says, and live with them in kindness. Surah An-Nisa, ayat 19. Allah exalted be He also says, and due to them, i.e. the wives, is similar to what is expected of them according to what is reasonable. Surah Baqarah, ayat 228.
Yes, the author Hafidullah, he started by discussing of those matters relating to what he titled as fi ishrat and nisa, how to live with one's wife, and what is being discussed, as ulama will clarify, regarding al-huquq. So those huquq, those rights that are expected to be fulfilled by both spouse, by way of the husband to the wife, and also those rights that are expected to be fulfilled by way of the wife to her husband. So this is of those things that are covered in the bab of al-nikah, regarding what are certain things that each spouse should be aware of regarding their duties to the other. So the author, Hafidullah, it is started by discussing first regarding al-ishra as the type concerning fi ishratin nisa, where more so how for the husband to live with their wives, so more so how the husband are their duties towards their wife. So ishra, that he mentioned the meaning linguistically regarding al-ijtima wa makhalata, so like living together, and also the bond, the unity between husband and wife, or cooperation between husband and wife. What are those things that they should be mindful of? So he will list certain things that are expected by way of more so the husband in this, by way of the husband to the wife, but also their duties to be fulfilled by way of the wife towards her husband. So he started regarding concerning of those things regarding this relationship. It should be based upon ulfa, where you have mutual love and respect for each other, and also the intention of wanting to be together, as they say, so the husband and wife, of trying to take those necessary steps and also fulfilling of those duties towards each other, so as to maintain that relationship, So also Shaykh mentioned that it is important, imperative for both wife and husband to know their role and to know what is expected from them, and also that at time and try to fulfill their duties to the best of their ability. So try to fulfill each spouse, try to fulfill their duties, their responsibility to the other to the best of their ability. And also is not should be a case where to fulfill one duty to the other is a tit for tat type of situation. Tit for tat, no, that's the word. Mm-hmm. So it shouldn't be such a case. So in a sense of both put their best effort in fulfilling their duty to the other, and at times if the other is not fulfilling their duty as they should, it doesn't mean that you hold back your responsibility to the other person, but each try their best to fulfill those duties. So overall, you'll mention certain things that are generally discussed and mentioned by way of text of those duties that each spouse will fulfill to the other. So you have things that are mentioned by way of the text, and also things that are known, that are other things that are mentioned but not per se text are clear cut on that matter, but it's something that in living together those things become through the experience of life, then we understand those duties. So of the thing that he mentioned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that you, the man, and the man being addressed, that they should live with their wife in the best manner. So that's concerning of those texts that mentioned, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلَ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. So also regarding that, لَهُنَّ, as for them, the wives, مثل الذي عليهن, that they should be given the same rights as he is given. So either husband should offer to his wife the same rights that also is expecting to be fulfilled. So these rights, is a two-way system for the betterment of the marriage and to keep the marriage together. This requires for both wife and husband to be aware of those duties and try their best to fulfill them. Aywa.
Moreover, the Prophet ﷺ said, "The best among you is the one who treats his family best." He ﷺ also said, "If I were to command anyone to prostrate to another, I would command a woman to prostrate herself before her husband due to the greatness of his right over her." Furthermore, the Prophet ﷺ said, "If a woman spends the night deserting her husband's bed, the angels keep sending their curses on her until the morning."
Hey, so of those points that he discussed, continuing regarding of the importance of each spouse knowing their rights and fulfilling their rights, then he mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that hadith narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, where the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned خيركم لأهلي, that the best amongst you, and the address is to the male, to the man, to the husbands, that the best amongst you husbands are those that are best towards their wives. So those who are best towards their wives, ahli mean concerning his family. So it shows regarding the husbands that a part of the husband to be good towards his wife. So a general advice that husband should try to be good towards his wife, and also the same can be said that the wife also being good towards her husband. So I mentioned this hadith that in the Tirmidhi and Ibn Majah. So the hadith in the Tirmidhi from Aisha radiallahu anha, and also in the Ibn Majah from the hadith of Ibn Abbas. And of the ulama who have considered this hadith to be as-sahih, this hadith to be as-sahih regarding that matter. Then I mentioned the second hadith regarding the importance regarding certain rights, the obligation towards the spouse. We mentioned لو كنت آمرا لأحد. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that if I was to command anyone and يسجد لأحد, to prostrate to anyone, لأمرت المرأة أن تسجد لزوجها, that I've commanded a wife that she should prostrate towards her husband. So the Prophet ﷺ emphasizing the importance regarding that the wife being obedient to her husband within those things that is permissible. So the wife obedience towards her husband within those things that is allowed. Then the Prophet said if he was to command anyone to prostrate, he would have done so. Ask a woman to prostrate to her husband. They show concern the importance of the wife being obedient to her husband. So then they mention لَأَدْمَ حَقِّهِ عَلَيْهَا. Then in other narration, which the narration of Ibn Hibban, it mentioned the reason because of the importance that showing the importance of the rights towards the husband. So it shows regarding that the wife trying to be as cooperative and as obedient and as good as possible towards her husband, and to fulfill her duty to the best of her ability towards her husband. Then he mentioned the third hadith regarding this matter, where the hadith he mentioned in the Sahih Muslim, that our hadith here is muttafaqun alayh, where the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned لو باتت المرأة, that if a lady was to sleep that night, هاجرا فراش زوجها, and she somewhat have abandoned, she have left the bed of her husband, قال لعنتها الملائكة, that she's cursed by the angels حتى تصبح, until the sun it rise. So it shows regard that a woman that leaves the bed or do not respond to her husband or in his bed without a valid reason, then she's cursed by the angels. She's cursed by the angel. This hadith that is mentioned here, hadith in the Al-Bukhari wa Muslim. Hadith here is in the Bukhari and Muslim. In another narration of the hadith that of Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he mentioned, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِ بِيَدِي, where the Prophet Islam mentioned that by the one with my life is in his hands, or my soul in his hands, قال مَا مِن رَجُلٍ, that there is no man, يَدْعُو عِمْرَتُهُ, that he calls his wife, invite his wife, إِلَى فِرَاشِهَا, towards his bed, فَتَأْبَى عَلَيْهِ, and then she refused, إِلَّا كَانَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ سَاخِطًا عَلَيْهَا. Then he mentioned that if she refused, then the one who's in the heavens, the one who's in the sky, is displeased with her. Then he mentioned hatta yarda anha, until her husband becomes pleased with him. So it shows regarding that the first hadith that she's cursed by the angels for refusing her husband and to be in his bed, that she's doing something which is a major sin because she's being cursed for this. So it shows that it's a major sin for her to do so, and that she's cursed by the angels. In some narration it mentioned hatta tusbih, until the morning, until in the morning. So from the night through from that night through until in the morning, she's being cursed by the angel. And in another narration of Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he mentioned hatta yarda anha, until the husband become pleased with her. So it shows regarding that time might extend. So it shows that regarding concerning that, her husband, until he becomes pleased with her and she comes back to his bed, then she's being cursed throughout this time by the angel. So they show that something which is a major sin. So something for the wife to be mindful of, that not to dismiss or to push away her husband unjustly. Aywa.
It is an act of the sunnah that each of the two spouses should treat the other clemently, show good manners towards the other, and be tolerant concerning the harm caused by the other. Allah exalted be, He says, and to parents do good, and to the companion at your side. Surah An-Nisa, ayat 36. It is viewed that the word companion in the aforementioned verse refers to each of the two spouses. Similarly, the Prophet ﷺ said, treat women kindly as they are like captives in your houses. In this,
and I mentioned regarding, so after the second point that he mentioned, or not of the point that he mentioned regarding of that relationship between husband and wife, as he mentioned, that after concerning that tahsin al-khuluq li sahibi, that for each spouse, husband and wife, that they exchange between themselves or display between themselves good conduct. So showing good conduct between themselves as individuals. And I mentioned of these things that of their good invention, so having good conduct, displaying of good conduct, behaving in a good way, and also a rifq. And second, also a rifq. So of those things that both display a rifq, which we say a rifq would mean that not being gentle towards each other. So being gentle towards each other, being compassionate, and they mention وَتَحَمُّلَ الْأَذَى, and also to be forbearing. So regarding that at times, that one have to be forbearing towards the other spouse, where something may be said, something may be done, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But that thing is, what was said or done, that the other person after this can somewhat have to be patient, and be forbearing. So it's, as was mentioned, it's not you do this, I do that, but at times one have to be the more forbearing with the other, but something that is both give and take, where both give and take is not go all the time to the advantage of the wife, nor in all the time in advantage to the husband, that is trying to follow have a balanced approach regarding how to conduct and behave towards each other. So as the Shaykh mentioned, so good conduct is important in any relationship. In any relationship, good conduct is important. And also with good conduct between husband and wife, then also the children receive the husband that or wife, that when they speak to each other, they speak in a very cordial way, respectful way towards each other. Then if the children see that, they'll pick this up. The children see that, and if the children see opposite, they'll pick up opposite. So displaying good conduct towards each other, of rifq. So also not only they benefit, but also the children also will benefit from this. So that's of those things that is mentioned regarding of those matter. Aywa. Then the hadith mentioned istaw bin nisa al khair. That I advise you regarding women to be khair. That I mentioned فَإِنَّهُنَّ عَوَانْ عِنْدَكُمْ. That they are like your aid and your sisters, assistant. So for the husband to understand that, for him at times, that for him to display or to carry more, for him to be more forbearing in the relationship. Aywa.
In this connection, the husband should keep the bond of marriage even if he dislikes his wife. This is because Allah exalted be He says, and live with them in kindness. For if you dislike them, perhaps you dislike a thing, and Allah makes therein much good. Surah An-Nisa, ayat 19. In his interpretation of the noble verse, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, the one who dislikes his wife may beget a child from her, and that Allah may make the child a means of much good. It is also related as a Sahih authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, a believing man should not hate a believing woman, i.e. his wife. If he dislikes one of her qualities, he will be pleased with another.
So of those things that is mentioned here by the author, Hafizullah, that of those things that for the husband and also to having that level of patience where if one may have or see of their spouse something of them that they may dislike. So it mentioned that dislike them completely, where kind of somewhat you dislike being with that person, living with that person, then that's a different matter. So is Allahu Alam not that if the husband or the wife have that dislike towards the other person as a person. Now we said that the person unable to kind of somewhat to live and to function and to fulfill their duties properly towards that person, then that's a different problem. That's a different problem to be looked at separately. But in the case regarding that in each person, they might have certain type of characteristic, or they might display certain type of behavior that are traits that you may dislike. So in most part, you like the person 90%, but you might find a few little things that you may disagree with. Then it requires the person to be patient. So in this case, the hadith regarding that ya yufriq mu'min mu'mina, that a person should not dislike a Muslim man, his wife, another Muslim, in sakhata minha khuluq, if the person may dislike of a character of them, radiya minha akhar, that you like other things. So is measuring up those things. We said, so in the case of total dislike, then that's a different matter. It needs to be looked at separately, where that dislike, where the person unable to fulfill their duty to the person, to be with that person, to be around that person, then that's a different matter. But if there's something the person might dislike of a particular thing with that person, then it's a C1. If it's something that can be changed in the person's character or their behavior, or something that it may be difficult, requires patience to change it, but it's not that serious to that extent that you cannot be with that person or continue a relationship with that person. So is of a khuluq you may dislike, but there's other things you look like to put things in some perspective. Aywa. So it shows that everyone have something that a person may disagree with. That might have each person will not per se husband and wife. They might have things that one may dislike that may come up, but it shouldn't be a reason where one is quick to throw in the towel or want to divorce and separation. So I said, no, so you will find cases like this where we might have things that we may disagree with regarding certain things of the person, but in general the person is a decent, upright person, then that's different. Aywa.
It is prohibited for any of the two spouses to withhold any of the other's due rights or have an aversion to fulfilling it. If the marriage
so the center of both zawj, when they enter the marriage, of the intention of entering the marriage is to fulfill your duty to the person to the best of your ability. That's from the onset. So the person enter into a marriage, that of the things the person have to understand clearly that they're going to be duties, responsibility that they have to fulfill to the other person. And the fact that you have made that marriage with a person, then you have that, then for sure then you have to comply with those things. So for both to understand from the onset, from the start, that by getting into a marriage, there's duty that you have to fulfill. And it's not going to be just for the wife, nor for the husband, that at times you have to work together. You have to work together as team members, not see yourself as being opposing teams. So it's not one team trying to win over the other, where the wife trying to win completely over the husband trying to win completely over the wife, then not to have that approach or that mindset. But as a team, working together and each playing their role. Aywa.
If the marriage contract is concluded, the wife who is mature enough for the consummation of marriage is to be given to her husband in his house if he so desires, unless she has made a condition in the marriage contract that she will remain in her house or in her town. It is permissible for the husband to take his wife along with him when he travels, as long as such a journey involves neither disobedience to Allah nor any danger. This is based on the fact that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions used to take their wives along with them when they travelled. However, most of today's journeys are made to disbelieving countries which patronize corruption, I don't know that word, and dissoluteness. Hence, it is impermissible to travel to such countries just for tourism and having fun, for such journeys greatly threatens one's religion as well as one's manners. Moreover, the woman herself and her guardian should refuse her travelling with her husband to such countries. There is a common practice innovated by the wealthy newlyweds. They travel on the second morning of the marriage to such disbelieving countries in order to spend their so-called honeymoon. In fact, it is more appropriate to call it the evil month, as it involves committing prohibited deeds such as taking off the Islamic veil, putting on clothes similar to those of disbelievers, as well as witnessing their bad traditions and deeds and visiting places of immorality.
That's complete. So the Sheikh after the point said that these are like what is being mentioned here regarding concerning of those things when soon after the marriage take place, then for the wife to understand that she would have to move in with her husband. So she have to move in and to live with her husband and then fulfill her duties accordingly, and also is him also fulfilling his duties accordingly. So I've said the mindset that when she gets married, then she has to have somewhat of a different mindset. That one, for both of them, she's not anymore what they call she's not a single woman, and also he's not a bachelor. So both of them understand that now they have a person that is not so. When they move in together, then everything starts. Regarding that they try their best to fulfill those duties towards each other. So at some point things will change. So depending on, and living together there, it's best that they have their own, as I said, environment. So it's both for husband and wife to have their own environment per se, that in some practices or some cultural practices, we might find that in getting married, then and some that husband have this mindset that the wife is going to come to move into my family's house. My wife, she's going to move into my family, which is my mother, my father, maybe my brothers and sisters, type of thing. And also she's going to be helping my mother and looking after my parents. Then she married you. So I said that's sometimes a cultural practice that is done where it is believed the husband take the wife on, that she'll come into the environment, which is the environment of his, but already his family is already there, but she'll be not just serving him, but also to serve his parents. Those things, then the husband has to make that clear to the wife before he marries. Then it's best for the husband to make that clear to the wife before he gets married to her. Regarding that, yes, if you move into the house, then you take care of me, but you have to also cook for my family. You have to make that clear to the wife, because then her first duty is to you as the husband, not per se your sisters, your father, your mother. Those are additional duties. And she should have understand those things should be discussed and clarified. So I said, no, both having their own environment to the best of one's ability. But even if she move into the family house, then said, no, those things just to be discussed, preferable beforehand. and what is expected and not expected, and being reasonable in approaching those things. Because I said, she's married to you, not to your entire family, by way of she's there to do this and that for everyone else. So that's concerning having your own environment type of thing. And also the Shaykh mentioned regarding concern of the matter regarding that, said a matter concerning that tarbawiyah, that cultivation and things for the husband and wife to be more to take into consideration regarding of time that they travels, that place that they may go. So is try to avoid places where there's corruption widespread, and in that in that society by way of the mentality and how those people look at life, and also how those people behave and conduct themselves. So us who live in the, so you find that we find those in the Arab world come to us, especially in the summertime and whatever other time that they come, and we know them, we know the situation is, and also us going to that us who are here in our travels with our family should be to Muslim country. If you want to go to anywhere, take time and vacation or whatever word that is used, that the person tried to take his family to a Muslim country. And said, no, the ideal situation, a person go to a country where you can say that's as a form of encouragement to see the Muslim practicing Islam in a somewhat very open, free way, Islamically, which those countries are very few, and that's the reality. Those countries where you can say you see Muslims functioning in most part and as they should regarding women, dress properly, masajid, you have the adhan, you can go and pray with other people. In not many places of the Muslim country you might find that, unfortunately. Unfortunately. They said that, yes, so said, yeah, just leave it at unfortunately, not many places, and the ones who may have that facility, is more difficult to get into them. That's the thing, for Allah mustaan.
As a result,
so the shahid, if traveling, rather than go to other non-Muslim country, more try to go to Muslim countries. Take our kids, take our family to Muslim environment rather than a Muslim environment. Aywa.
As a result, the Muslim women may return to their homes affected by such evil traditions, desiring to imitate them and renounce those of the Islamic community. Hence, such journeys are by all means prohibited, and those who make them should be reproved and prevented from doing so. Moreover, the woman's guardians are to prevent her from traveling with her husband to such countries and rid her of such a heedless husband, as she is considered a trust that the guardian should preserve. Even if the woman herself agrees to travel with her husband to such countries, she may be unaware of her interest and mindless of the consequences of such travels. That is why there are persons to control and observe her interests, namely her guardians, and preventing her from such acts is one of their duties. As for sexual intercourse, the husband is prohibited to copulate with his wife in her menses, for Allah exalted be He says, and they ask you about menstruation, say it is harm, so keep away from wives during menstruation, and do not approach them until they are pure. And when they have purified themselves, then come to them from where Allah has ordained for you. Indeed, Allah loves those who are constantly repentant and loves those who purify themselves. Surah Baqarah, ayat 222.
Yes, so regarding intimacy, that at certain times it becomes haram to have intimacy. So as mentioned here, and that's somewhat straightforward. Aywa.
In addition, it is permissible for the husband to force his wife to wash herself, to remove dirt, to shave undesirable hair in her body, and to clip long dirty nails. He can also prevent her from eating whatever causes a bad smell in the mouth, as such matters cause the husband's aversion. Moreover, it is permissible for the husband to force his wife to take a ritual bath to remove her state of major ritual impurity and to observe the 5 prayers. If the wife refuses to observe them, he is obliged and discipline her.
So the author Hafidullah discussed regarding of those things the husband can force his wife, said, but at times these may as applied to the husband doing it applies both ways. So it applies concerning both ways regarding concern that the husband can somewhat trying to ensure that his wife, that she upholds a certain level of cleanliness and tidiness. Now, so that know that that is the case, that both are there to work with each other. So the husband can somewhat ensure that his wife maintains a level of cleanliness and mindful of certain things regarding our personal hygiene. We said also the same thing applies to the husband. That also he has to be mindful of this also, for him to be mindful of these things. So regarding concerning personal hygiene, that both to be mindful of the soul of the person when you go in after a full days at work, then before going to bed the person like take a bath. So of those things, but generally concerned that personal hygiene applies to both. It applies to both. Aywa. Then also of those things regarding as-salat, that for the husband to be mindful regarding that matters relating to salah, that uphold on, and also those things are upheld. Aywa.
If she refuses to observe them, he is to oblige and discipline her. After that, if she insists on her refusal of observing prayer, it becomes prohibited for the husband to continue living with her. Thus, the husband should force his wife to give up and avoid whatever is prohibited. For Allah exalted be He says, men are in charge of women by right of what qualities Allah has given one over the other. Surah An-Nisa, ayat 34. Allah exalted be He also says, O you who have believed, protect yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is people and stones, over which are appointed angels harsh and severe. They do not disobey Allah in what commands them, but they do what they are commanded. Surah Tahrim, ayat 6. Moreover, Allah says, and enjoin prayer upon your family and people, and be steadfast therein. We ask you not for provision, we provide for you, and the best outcome is for those of righteousness. Surah Taha, ayat 132. Allah also praised His Prophet Ismail, peace and blessings be upon him, saying, a mention in the book Ismail. Indeed, he was true to his promise, and he was a messenger and a prophet. He used to enjoin on his people prayer and zakah. Surah Maryam, ayat 54 to 55.
So those of those in the husband try to ensure these things are fulfilled by way of his wife, that regarding matters that relates to her deen. So matters regarding her deen, that he tries to assist her in those things. But that in today's time, in our society and communities, we might find cases where it's the opposite. So most of the instruction is from the husband towards his wife. We might find cases where it's the opposite, where the husband is the one who's slack in his deen, and the wife is the one trying to support and to be patient with him. So at times we might have at times we might find things have gone contrary to what would be expected, but those cases, they do exist. Cases like these, they do exist. Aywa.
Thus, the husband is responsible for the righteousness, religiousness, and manners of his wife, as she is the one who raises his children and leads the family as well. Hence, if she is corrupt and negligent of her religion, she will surely cause the corruption of his children and his family. Accordingly, Muslims should fear Allah with regards to their wives and observe their conduct. As the Prophet ﷺ said, treat women kindly.
So of those things they mentioned, that of the impact by way of extension, that if the wife is somewhat poor in her deen and in her conduct, then this also can impact on the children. So this also can impact on the children. So is the husband, so in those cases that at times if he cannot change the wife, that doesn't mean the husband has to be more involved in the life of those children. And you might find that so you have cases, so if the woman is on there, that so if you have children involved, that the husband has to just be more involved. If you find that his wife have issues that needs to be resolved, he has to just be more involved regarding the children, so to ensure that they go to the masajid and things Islamically is made available to them based upon his effort. And knowing that if they would leave it out with her, then things will go, as we say, pear-shaped. And things will go in a different direction. So it's for the husband that each person know their situation and circumstance and know as to what level of effort that they need to put to make things go in the right direction. Aywa.
The husband is required to spend one of every 4 nights with his wife, provided she is a free woman, if she asks him to do so. This is because he cannot marry but 3 other women besides her and has to spend 1 night with each in this case. This is based on the fact that Ka'ab ibn Siwar passed a judgment during the caliphate of Omar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, and it was such a well-known judgment that it was met with approval, none contradicted it. It is also the opinion adopted by some faqirs, and what is mentioned above shows its proof and the principle on which it is based. However, Shaykh Taqiyuddin has a different view in this regard. He says that the case of being married to 1 woman differs from that of being married to 4 concerning the ruling on the number of nights spent with one's wives, and Allah knows best.
So the author, Hafidullah, discussed a matter regarding that with some of the ulama, that they see that the husband should not stay away from his wife for more than 4 days. Based upon that, you are allowed to the maximum amount of wives that you are allowed to have is 4. So for the person to exceed seeing his wife or staying away from his wife beyond 4 days, that is seen as something which is not allowed. And they mentioned regarding that, some of the Qudat at the time of Umar Khattab, that that's the judgment they passed, and those who were present during that time from the Sahaba, that they didn't go against that judgment, indicating that they were in approval. But they mentioned that, so even though it's a view taken by some of the fuqaha regarding that matter, but Shaykh mentioned, Shaykh Taqiyuddin Ibn Taymiyyah, that he sees different. He doesn't say that it's something that goes back to the husband and wife or the family, those people deciding as to what they think is appropriate regarding how much time that is spent, with the condition it is done in a just way and in an even way. So if they want to do 2, night, if there's more than 1, night, 2, 3, week, 5 days, that's with them. As long as it's done just. As long as it's done in a just way.
It is obligatory for the potent husband to have sexual intercourse with his wife if she asks him to do so at least once every 4 months. This is because Allah exalted be He decreed that the maximum period for a husband who swears not to have sexual intercourse with his wife is 4 months. So scholars apply this ruling on other cases of men. Yet Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah views that having sexual intercourse with one's wife is obligatory according to the wife's satisfaction, and that it is not restricted to a certain period, as long as it does not cause harm to the husband and keep him from seeking provision.
And that's called Raja. That's the more correct view regarding concerning that. So some of the ulama mentioned us know that at least how many months they said? 4 months. 4 months, unless that man is traveling constantly, type of thing. But some of that view concerns the least amount is one should not avoid his wife for 4 months. That's a view that is taken. But as mentioned by Taqiyuddin Rahimullah, Shaykh al-Islam, it goes back to, you understand, you might find cases where some woman maybe is said to use the word active. So it goes back to, that's between husband and wife. So just as the husband should, so both work out those things accordingly. Accordingly. But there's no set time regarding how much per week, how much per month. It goes back to each other, somewhat to maintain each other chastity. Aywa.
In this connection, if the husband has been abroad for more than 6 months and his wife asks him to come back, the husband is obligated to do so unless he is performing an obligatory hajj or participating in jihad, fighting in the cause of Allah, or excusably unable to come back. If he refuses to come back without having any excuse preventing him from coming back, and she asks for separation, the judge or the one in authority is to separate them after informing the husband. This is because the husband has neglected one of the wife's rights, which causes her harm. Sheikh Taqiyuddin said, the harm caused to the wife by the husband when he does not have sexual intercourse with her necessitates the invalidation of the marriage contract. This is to be applied whatever the cause may be, whether it is intended by the husband or not, and whether he is potent or not, or just like the ruling on maintenance, but rather worthier.
So sure, regarding the matter that of the matter of the rights between husband and wife is intimacy. That goes both for husband and wife. So it goes applies to both wife and husband regarding satisfactory amount of intimacy. Then to the extent where some of fuqaha all concerned that that if the husband is absent for a certain time, they mention here 6 months, not having been with his wife, then that could be a reason for her to seek to end the marriage because of that right not being fulfilled. That right being fulfilled. So it shows the seriousness of this matter. That intimacy is after said that one of the an important matter regarding marriage. One of the important matters regarding marriage. Aywa.
It is prohibited for each of the two spouses to tell others about their private matters related to their sexual intercourse. This is because the Prophet ﷺ said, verily among the most wicked of people in the sight of Allah on the day of resurrection is the man who has sexual relations with his wife and then divulges her sexual secrets, related by Imam Muslim. This hadith is regarded as a proof of the prohibition of divulging the secrets of their sexual relations, whether they are words or actions.
So I mentioned regarding concerns, that's hadith also again, so of those, the adab regarding intimacy, and that both husband and wife are not to divulge those information to others. So not to speak of intimate matter to others, and that applies to both husband and wife. That applies to both husband and wife. And I mentioned, inna min asharr an-nas inda Allah manzilatan yawm al-qiyamah ar-rajul. So I mentioned, so it applies to both a rajul that may divulge information regarding his intimacy with his wife, speak about those things, and also the wife doing the same, and also she speaking about those matters with others. So it mentioned that those things are not to be divulged to others. So I mentioned that for this hadith is in Sahih Muslim, as they mentioned, the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. But this is of one of the hadith in Sahih Muslim that are under discussion. So this hadith is in Sahih Muslim that one of the hadith kind of somewhat revolves around a narrator called Omar ibn Hamza al-Umari. Omar ibn Hamza al-Umari. So you find that some of the ulama of hadith have spoken about him, say mutakallim fi. There's kalam about him. So you find that of those, Ibn Ma'in, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Nasa'i, those of the ulama who spoke about him, indicating that he's a weak narrator. And you have others like Ibn Adi, and also you have that kind of somewhat mentioned that his hadith generally can be worked with, but there's some kalam about him. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah even mentioned his da'if in his book and some of his works. So there's some discussion, and some all that his hadith are not totally disregarded, but not to the highest extent. So it mentions in the hadith, they will fall in with some, they'll fall on the category of hadith being Hasan. But Imam Muslim rahimahullah in his book, his hadith is Sahih and above. So this person, there's some kalam about him, but you have some who are given some tawthiq to some degree, that they mentioned also of those narrator that is discussed in Sahih Muslim. So based upon this hadith is under discussion. But some mention hadith that the best that maybe can say about hadith is Hasan. Those who mention hadith is considered to be Hasan, not Sahih as one would expect, but of those hadith that are discussed in Sahih Muslim. Aywa.
If the husband is to prevent his wife from going out of the house unnecessarily, it is for the husband to prevent his wife from going out of the house unnecessarily. He should not let her go out wherever she likes without his permission. Moreover, it is prohibited for the wife to go out of the house without the permission of her husband unless necessary. On the other hand, it is desirable for the husband to grant his wife permission to go out to nurse her legal, unmarriageable relatives, such as her brother or uncle, for this involves maintaining the ties of kinship. Furthermore, the husband is not entitled to prevent his wife's parents from visiting her at home, unless he fears that they may turn her against him whenever they come to visit her. In this case, it is for the husband to prevent them from visiting her.
Yes, that's concerning of those things that with the husband, that some allowance for his wife to visit her family and friends, except that he finds that there's issues for him to prevent. So if there's going to be issues that may disrupt their relationship, then or have negative influence on his wife, then the husband can, as they said, that the husband then can take the appropriate action regarding stopping her from seeing her family, and that's our friends, because of it's having negative impact on their marriage or conduct and the likes. Then also he mentioned regarding that the wife, that she can leave the home, but in the case of that, so leaving the home, if she's leaving the home by, if she's going to make her normal routine runs within take the kids to school, go to the store, then those things, does she need on a daily basis ask permission? In most cases, no. Then a traditional practice that those normal duty runs, then it is understood that she'll do her duty of taking the kids to school, pick them up and the likes. But as for that, going from, let's say we're in London, from South London to East London, from South London to North London, which is said that's for us is a reasonable journey, then she should let her husband know. Then those things, then she should seek permission. So she leaving out of her or postcode type of thing, then she let her husband know regarding her situation. Aywa.
The husband is also entitled.
Let him know that seek permission. So not just I'm telling you and I'm going. So not in the sense of I'm going. You're just being informed. So by way of is seeking of his permission. Seeking of his permission. So said his husband, but it's not a thing that now she's imposing her will on her husband. Aywa.
The husband is also entitled to prevent his wife from being hired or employed, as he is supposed to provide for her and meet all her needs. This is also because being hired or employed makes the wife too busy to fully observe her husband's rights or to look after her children. Work may also expose the wife to immoral situations, especially nowadays when decency and morality have become rare, whereas dissoluteness and immorality are widespread. In other words, women nowadays mingle with men in offices and workplaces involving prohibited privacy, which is a great moral danger that undoubtedly must be avoided.
Which one is going to use? So let him read. Okay.
Did you finish reading? He's finished.
You finished?
Finished.
So the author, Rahimahullah, he discussed regarding of those things, that what is ideal. So what is ideal is that the husband, that not making his wife to work based upon depending on the environment, so not to work, and also if she has to work is to look at the environment that she's working. So the environment involve ikhtilat, overly free mixing of male and female, and also other things that may be involved, then for the husband and wife to look at those situations. So if she needs to work, then what's the best environment? Ideally, not working, but if situation, circumstance requires for the wife that she has to work, that is something to be discussed between the wife and the husband regarding what's the best environment for her to be within. Good.
Furthermore, it is for the husband to prevent his wife from breastfeeding her baby from a former husband unless necessary. In addition, the wife is not to obey her parents when they ask her to separate from her husband, nor should she obey them when they ask her to visit them if her husband disagrees. This is because her obedience to her husband is worthier than that to her parents. To illustrate, it is narrated that the paternal aunt of Hussein came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked her, "Do you have a husband?" When she replied in the affirmative, he ﷺ said, "See your status with him, i.e. whether you try to satisfy him or not. For he is your paradise and your fire, i.e., your entering either paradise or hellfire can be dependent on the way you treat him. If the husband has more than one wife, it is obligatory for him to treat them as equals and to divide the time he spends with them justly. Allah exalted be He says, and live with them in kindness. Surah Nisa, ayat 19. And Allah exalted be He also says, so do not incline completely towards one and leave another hanging. Surah Nisa, ayat 129.
So of those things the author mentioned that for a wife also, for her to understand that the person who's her first priority is her husband. So the first priority is her husband, and then her children within her household. As for her parents, then their obedience does not supersede that of her husband. So not to our parents, that they do not per se, that they are parents, but in certain things she doesn't have to obey them in certain things. So of those things he mentioned, that if the parents that may ask or request from their daughter to divorce her husband and there's no justifiable reason, then she should not obey them in this. The wife should not obey them in this matter, but to see that her main priority is her husband and try to make well that relationship. Then also he mentioned of those matters that yajib, as he mentioned, is yajib, it is wajib ala zawj إذا كان له أكثر من زوجة أن يساوي بينهن في القسم. That of those things that for the husband who have many wives, so the husband have multiple wives, up to 4, 2, 3, 4, that for him to be just and fair in the amount of time that he gives to each. So they mentioned in this matter concerning tasawi, so so whatever time is given to the one is given to the other. So by way of either each have 1 day each, or 2 day each, or 3 day each, but have to be done in an equal basis. On an equal basis, and also that not only days, but the time that are also that to regard that matter, that the time that he can somewhat the cutoff time that he would leave one place and the other place is the same. In a sense of that, for example, he would see that the husband that at a particular time that, for example, 5 o'clock, from 5 o'clock that evening or 7 or 6 o'clock or whatever the time is, that time is my cutoff point from house number 1. And from 5 o'clock that house number 2 becomes the place that's considered to be the time that I should spend with that house until the next day. So it's not just night, but also the next day, where, for example, you might find cases with a husband that with one house he always late in coming, and the other house and also early in leaving. So one place, he will visit one wife A. With that one, it seems there's some preference where both, for example, 3 days. But most of the nights of wife A, he give her a full time. Wife B, he always seems to arrive at her place late. Where is he? At the other place. Then that's unjust. So you have a cutoff point where he can somewhat, leave that place and can somewhat concentrate on the other place. And also in the morning, early in the morning, as he get up, 7 o'clock he's out and he goes another wife, and he doesn't do it to the other wife. Then that's unjust. So the husband has to somewhat follow it has to be regimental in the routine that he has to ensure that he's being just to all the families. So I said, son, that justice, whether he has with one wife X amount of kids and the other one with X amount of kids, then that's a different matter. The time is spent based upon the wives, not per se the children. So the person taking on certain responsibility of multiple wives, then you have to understand that you have to understand the gravity, the severity of what he's embarking upon and how he has to function with everyone. So it's not about how many children, which one you like more in time that is given. It has to be based upon as even basis. It has to be on an even system that he follows. Aywa.
This means that when the husband favors one of his wives over the other, it makes the other as if suspended or hanging. For she has a husband and does not have him at the same time. In this regard, the equal treatment the husband gives each is mainly based on his just division of nights he spends with them. This is because the night is the time when a man goes back home, finds tranquility with his family, and generally goes to bed with his wife. As for those who mainly work at night, such as security guards and the like, they are to divide daytimes among their wives, as daytime for them is regarded as night for others. Moreover, even if one of one's wives is in her perium or menstrual period, or she is sick, she is still entitled to have her equal share of one's time. This is because the husband's presence with his wife creates intimacy and affection between them, even if without having sexual intercourse. In addition, it is not for the husband to set the order of his wives in his schedule according to his own desire. Rather, it is to be done by means of drawing lots or by the consent of all his wives. This is because placing a certain wife first in the husband's schedule means that he favors her over the others, while it is obligatory for him to treat them all as equals. On the other hand, the husband is not entitled to take one of his wives along with him on a journey and leave the others, unless he draws lots among them or all his wives give consent. This is based on the fact that whenever the Prophet ﷺ intended to go on a journey, he drew lots among his wives and took with him the one upon whom the lot fell.
So the author just discuss further regarding matters that relates to the husband that have multiple wives, that of those duty that especially concerning the evening that it is spent with that wife and not giving to the other, so the person spend that time that had been allotted to that wife accordingly. Then also he mentioned that even the case regarding, so even when the wife is on her cycle, then he's still to give her time. So even the wife is on her cycle, where the man not able to have intimacy, but she's still to be given her the time that she's deserving, that she has a right to. And also in cases where one wife may be sick, then also she's still deserving of her time. And you might find cases where that, especially concerning when, even if the wife is pregnant, one is pregnant, and her pregnancy may be difficult, that if you give her more time because of her situation, that time by right has to be made up with the other wife, unless the other wife gave consent for you to take that timing. So all of these are involved. So as I said, that the time allotment is based upon not being and being fair, and being fair are being equal. So equal time is given. If time is taken from one, then it has to be made up with the other. It has to be made up with the other. So things regarding sickness or good health, that each is still deserving their timing accordingly. If anything is taken, then either it is taken with the other person give their consent and may have give up that right. That's from the other side, not that they are forced. And if the person did not, then it has to be made up. That time has to be made up. If it is, maybe that wife is ill and you have to spend time with her, then whatever time that is taken from the other, then it has to be made up at some point. So those are the things that he mentioned also regarding traveling, that to make things kind of somewhat on an even basis, that is left for the person to have a system where that if you're going to take a wife with him, that he's not taking the same wife all the time. So to make that thing, to make it make it an even playing field, they mentioned that the husband then he draw lots or whatever system to choose which of the wife to take on that journey. So if he has two wives and you're going to take a trip on this trip, both want to go, but you can take one wife, then they draw lots. And whoever it is, win. The next journey will be then the other one. Okay, so not for them, you understand? Saying, hey, for that case, then, but for the next trip, if you have a next trip, then it will be for the person decide he has two wives and he give one a trip this year. You're going to go on a trip, so either consider to be, either for him to be every year has two trips. One for one and one for the other type of thing. So, but the main thing that things is done on an even basis, where one is not perceived that is being treated significantly indifferent from the other in certain things and certain things. Anyway, so that's concerning those matters that. So the Shaykh, in this matter, in this matter, discuss mainly regarding of those things that the husband should be aware of regarding his duty towards his wife, and some matters regarding the wife duty towards her husband. So of those things that we said, it goes into their conduct and behavior between themselves as husband and wife. They have to be mindful of this. Hey, so both husband and wife being mindful. So in summary, that those duties are duties that in relation to that the husband and wife being mindful regarding their duties to each other by way of their conduct and behavior around each other, whether in open or in public. So being mindful of their duties regarding how they speak with each other, how they behave towards each other, those things to be mindful of. We said, just the common courtesy and manners is expected from all. So even more so husband and wife. So I said, with those common courtesy and decency and respect, if shown between each other, then the children said automatically the children will see this and pick this up. That I see when daddy speak to mom, he does so in a respectful way, and mom the same thing. When one gives the other say thanks, and the other say please. So the children learn of those things. So I said in general those things are common courtesy, more so the husband and wife should display to each other. Then also they discuss and things of argument, disagreement between husband and wife, then to avoid it being done in front of the children. So dispute or disagreement, then to avoid those things being done in front of the children, and especially concerned with not become very heated discussions in front of the children, then to try to avoid those situations. And if those things arise at time for the husband, just kind of someone to be the one just to control the situation, just sometimes just leave the house. Just sometime to leave. And then come back and try to work out things later. So it's just being mindful of those things. And also matters regarding consulting of each other. As I was husband and wife concerned, consulting each other in matters. So matters that affect the family, for them to discuss it between themselves, to see what is the best idea, or what is the best plan that would be for the betterment of the family. So those things, as I said, husband and wife sit around the table and discuss those matters and try to come up with the best plan possible for all. And also that in a marriage and any relationship, it's at times they say compromise. Is the word compromise? That you have to give and take, you understand? At times you have to compromise. But you understand, so not see everything has to go my way, everything has to go her way. At times it may go the other person's way due to circumstance situation, but knowing to make those compromise for the betterment of the marriage and the relationship. And of those things to be full of pardon. Now, that each are willing to pardon, because no one is perfect. The husband is not the Prophet ﷺ, so not to see your husband as the Prophet ﷺ. He's not. And the husband not to see his wife as being, what we said, Khadija. Now, this perfect wife. Now, Aisha anha at times used to be upset with the Prophet ﷺ. Aisha at times would be upset with the Prophet ﷺ. Now, and that's the Prophet ﷺ. So how about us miskin? Now, us the masakin, how about us? So we'll do things as husband that our wife will be displeased with us, and the same. So just as I said this, each does at times know that we are human beings, will fall short, but also the person is able, can pardon and forgive. Pardon and forgive certain matters. So then he mentioned regarding matters regarding intimacy, so that also a part of an intimacy concept, that expressing one love towards the person is not just said just as intimacy, but other ways that those things can be expressed. So sometimes it just so whatever of those ways, so intimacy being part of it, and also important that for the wife not to reject her husband, nor for the husband to ignore his wife. You understand? To be mindful of those things. To be mindful of those things regarding intimacy. And also he mentioned regarding concerning hygiene, important regarding matters regarding hygiene and cleanliness, regarding concerns of hygiene, or our own personal hygiene and cleanliness. None, whether in the house and also our own individual person, that the person that as I said, you have to sleep within that bed. You understand? So common prayer, that's before going into bed, just take a wash so you're fresh, as they say. Put on perfume and go into bed even with your wife. Don't you understand? So those things can somewhat, just as you want her to do the same. If you want her to dress up, then also you understand, look as it, in a manner that she'll be pleased with you. Now, so those things inside the bedroom between husband and wife, there's no rules between them. In the bedroom between husband and wife, as I said, behind closed door, there's no rules. Now, except for those few things that Islam says that have been explicitly mentioned as haram. Then I mentioned that at times that one is not allowed to have intimacy with his wife. So on the occasion that he mentioned here, of those he mentioned here, is when she's in her menstruation. So while she's menstruating, then he's not allowed to have intimacy with her, concerned penetration, but they can still fondle and do other things. So they can still touch each other, sleep in the same bed, kiss, and all those things, but no intimacy, no penetration during that time. So we're not like the Yahud, nor the Nasara. The Yahud, they avoid their wife completely, and they're proud of it. And different building, and they're proud of it. You understand? And the Nasara, they have no boundaries. There's no cut-off time for them. But for Islam, put things everything in its proper place. So to be mindful of those things and conscious of those matters. And especially concerned a person living in the West, where you understand the fitna is always there. The fitna is always there. So those matters, to be mindful of those things. Then he mentioned as ziyarah, you understand, which is the wife visiting of family and friends. Then those things are generally, the husband can somewhat give allowance to those things unless there's a reason to put a stop to that. We find that you go into either family or friends that are bad influence and it's affecting your home. Then you have to kind of somewhat, then you understand, put some measurements in place. And also for husband and wife, also with time, you understand, try to have their own time together. So in a relationship, that the husband has said to see himself give, you understand, try to give time to you and your wife. So you have your own time that you do your own thing together. Then also those things, whether in the home or outside the home. So that could be your own time, is whether in the home or outside the home, each accordingly. And also you mentioned regarding a matter that so those are things that he mentioned, and also other matters that the discussion regarding a person of other wives or several wives, that of the things to be mindful of regarding of those things that within the personal ability is time. Our person divide is time, and the general thing is equal time. So everything is equal time. So whatever time is given to the other, it should be given to one, should be given to the other. So try to have equal time for one wife. So it's certain thing that equality is required, not being just. So just in that sense, each given the same amount of time. As a matter regarding intimacy, regarding which wife, that may varies. But the time given, especially during the night, that they're giving their night, and of the ulama include also the day. So the night and day, they go together, but the person have more leniency in the night to ensure that just to check up on the other family. And their affairs. So you have a case where, for example, that during the daytime, the husband might try to visit his families. So you go to one house and you spend hours during the day. And the other one, so wife A, he'll go to her house during the day to check up, but he'll spend, for example, hours. And wife B, he'll go to her and spend 5 minutes, 2 minutes, going there, everything okay, and then he's gone. and the other one he spent hours, then that's wrong. Then that's wrong. So no is having a just, equal, balanced way in approaching those things. So as I mentioned, that if the husband is away from his wife, so that's an intimacy, and being together, living together is important. That if the husband is absent for 6 months, according to what the Shaykh mentioned here, then that matter could be raised to the judge. If the wife started to make complaint, then that matter can be raised to the authorities, and then they can look at that case to see what's the best way forward regarding the reasons and what can and cannot be worked out. So that inshallah will end this session. The Shaykh has somewhat more, so he mentioned some things and other things that to be mentioned in the next coming lesson. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهذه السبيل.